What term? No, it hasn't. No, he's talking about Hacker Media. He does hackermedia.org. Yeah, I don't know what else to call it. New media? That sounds weird. Old media? That's just dirty. You cool, Matt? All right. Just give me a beep then. Sweet. Hello, everybody. I am Darren Kitchen. I am one of the hosts and producers of the online television show Hack 5, and I'd like to speak to you guys some of my experience and my perspective on hacker media, give you some lessons learned. And I guess I want to start off by letting you know that when I was 11, I built a beige box because of hacker media. So think about that. And before I go too much further, I got to say, this is my first time at PhrakNIC, and you guys are some of the coolest con goers I've ever met. So we will be back next year again and again. All right. So now that I've played it up for the crowd, inspirations. Well, then I just gave it away. Anybody play this game? Global Thermonuclear War? Okay, imagine a 9-year-old kid, totally impressionable, watching a movie like this, and all of a sudden, Mom, I've got to have a computer. Who knew you could get free phone calls with a soda can tab and a payphone? That's just amazing. Yes?
True story. After I saw War Games, I spent an entire summer mowing lawns and saving every penny so I could buy a 300 baud modem for my bootleg Apple II computer. Franklin Ace 1000. Do you remember those?
That's nice. Well, I got in the early 90s, so I got a secondhand PC XT. I got a 1200 baud, but I didn't have a terminal app, so I had to write one in BASIC that I got off like a Byte magazine or something like that. And again, feel free to just chime in at any point in time. I'm kind of a scatterbrain. I got slides here that try to keep me on track, but for the most part, I won't be. So I warn you. Okay, so yes, War Games. And this is like the September that never ended before that September. You guys know what I'm talking about? Okay, so I was of the generation that kind of joined into the scene because of this inspiration. And this inspiration led to several other inspirations. And this is kind of one of the themes of this talk. And speaking about inspirations, that led me to the BBS scene. You guys remember this stuff? Oh, yeah. It's awesome. I love this stuff. And if you guys love this stuff, telnet over to bbs.hack5.org. Who's played Legend of the Red Dragon? Dope Wars? Pimp Wars? Okay, they're all there. So anyway, that inspiration, that original thing, like, oh my God, that is so cool. David Lightman is like hacking NORAD and all that fun stuff, led me to Mom, get me a computer, to oh my God, a 1200 baud modem. I don't have a terminal application. Let's write one real quick in BASIC. Bam, bulletin board systems. And what does that lead me to? Text files, e-zines. This was the hacker media of the day, and I was like totally enthralled with it. And then from there, in the 90s, I mean, this was the early 90s when I got on board. I'm 25, so you can't blame me for not being in the scene in the 80s. Way too busy playing with G.I. Joe. But that eventually led me to IRC, the ultimate community, still kicking. You can find me on Freenode and irchack5.org. But these scenes and these communities and these venues led me to the text files. And I just grabbed one from textfiles.com, Jason Scott's site. And this is kind of interesting. I wanted to point out that this is a text about telnet dial-ups on GTE. And it's important for you all to know that everything you do on telnet is saved on megatape for 5 years. You guys know what megatape is? Okay, so that is a real thing. All right. Well, there's a lot of BS in text files, but it's also a lot of fun. So I got involved with the hacking scene that way. And through the BBSs and the people that I met on IRC kind of led me into like, wow, this is cool, playing with a lot of stuff myself until I ended up saying, okay, well, it's time to give back. It's time to, you know, when you like join a hack group on Dalnet in 1996. In my case, it was called NPA. It was a play on word. It was in the freak scene. NPA stands for Number Planning Area. In our case, it was National Freaks Association. We had 2 issues, as any good freak group in the 90s did. And it was awesome to be part of the media. And that time was just text files and e-zines. and, of course, magazines and ANSI art, which you get in your art packs with the rest of your hacker media at the time. This is not one of my favorites, but it's kind of cool. Okay, so who remembers this? Okay, I wasn't born, but that's cool. Esquire magazine, The Secrets of the Little Box, the Little Blue Box, by Ron Rosenbaum, and that was like the September Never Ends before war games. In fact, I think I could probably do an entire talk about all these Septembers that never ended. Hackers, there's one from the 90s. Who saw the movie Hackers and got into hacking? Oh, okay. Nobody's going to admit to it. All right. That's cool. That's cool. So, did you guys do the crow? Was that at Nauticon? You did the crow here? I watched that. So you were saying?
We did the hackers drinking game during the early days of PhrakNIC, and anytime they did something that was impossible or you spotted a technical inaccuracy, you drank, and I don't think we ever made it through the entire thing.
No, technical inaccuracies and hackers? But there's a lot of on a tangent, which is the theme of this. No, it wasn't inspiration. It was tangents. There's a lot of interesting hacker lore embedded in that movie, so that's kind of cool. So Secrets of the Little Blue Box, kind of the first public awakening to the whole hacker scene, at least the way I see it. Like I said, this is my perspective. I'm not quoting this as fact. But hacker media evolves. Okay, so in '84, we've got 2600 magazine in print. We've got Phrak and eZine. We've got Off the Hook, the radio show, broadcasting AM as a podcast, as a download now. And then in the 90s, various eZines, art packs, hacker cons begin. And now in the 2000s, we've got blogs and podcasts. And the interesting thing about this, with YouTube and web series and stuff, is it changes the dynamic of the medium. Because before, what we had was a couple of kids that got together on IRC to put together an eZine, maybe some ANSI art packs, release it on some bulletin board systems, on some news groups, and maybe you'd get some feedback. Maybe some people would join the channel. And at the very bottom, of course, you had your greets to half a dozen channels. And point being, it was more or less a one-way street. And now we've got a totally different dynamic, and we can we can build communities, just like then. But we get the feedback, and I think it's really important. And I think what's happening in media right now and how it applies to the whole hacker world is really interesting. As far as podcasts are concerned, there are a ton of them. This is not by any stretch of the imagination an all-inclusive list, but you can find a lot of these on hackermedia.org. Is Droops? There's Droops. Hackermedia.org, which is now trademarked by him. And there's a lot of cool web series. There's actually a lot of media out there, and it's kind of interesting to see the evolution, that it's just exactly like how we've gone from newspaper to radio to television, the same way as the bandwidth, and as it becomes feasible. So what I wanted to tell you guys about is my show, Hack 5, and how it kind of came to be and what my experiences have been. Putting that together and kind of the way I see things going together. So Hack 5 started because we could. And that's the greatest reason to do anything, right? So it started on a budget of $700. In fact, at that point, I even got hack5.org instead of hack5.com because, obviously this thing isn't going to take off or anything. So I'll get the cheap domain, right? Out of the gate, 20,000 people watched it in the first month. Totally astounding. I had no idea. I remember a conversation vividly with my co-host at the time that when we were putting this together, dude, if 500 people watch this show, we'll keep doing it. That'd be fun, We spent 2 months putting together a pilot, only to air it to see 20,000 and put together a release schedule of monthly. And now, 3 years and 2 months later, we're weekly and 250,000 views. So it's kind of crazy. And not what I expected, but now I'm kind of given this responsibility, and it's quite interesting. So what I want to tell you about, and then, of course, reinvesting. Probably put about 20 or 30 grand into this show. throughout our own money or whatever we've been able to raise. So I guess it's one of those things that we would consider profitable, but not necessarily like, making money because everything's being reinvested because toys are really cool and HD is expensive and a lot of fun. But ultimately, production doesn't matter. One of the other interesting things that happened when we started this show was a big shift in the way that I was used to the whole hacker media in the 90s with, again, the e-zines and the text and whatnot, and that was anonymity. When we started the show for the first 5 episodes, I was Darren. Hi, I'm Darren. Okay. And then we had Wes, we had Allie, and nobody had a last name. And eventually, who remembers Tech TV? I would tip one for the homies, but I don't want to have to clean it up. That was a shame, but eventually, since G4 slaughtered them in the US, it was kind of a different kind of situation up in Canada as far as who owns the rights and whatnot. So Tech TV was still cool. It was still G4 Tech TV, but it was still cool up in Canada, and we got asked to do Call for Help with Lee Laporte up in Toronto, which was like awesome. Was like, okay, sure, we've got a little podcast that gets like 20,000 views. We're like 21 years old, and why not? Well, we went and did that, and they were like, oh, what's your last name? What? No, wait, somebody's going to pull my docs, So that was kind of a big deal for me. And it's enough to just put yourself in front of everyone on the web, and then it's just a total change of mindset. So anyway, that's kind of a personal thing, but that's one of the interesting things that I thought of when it came to this. So what do? We're kind of hackers in the old school sense of the term, right? So some of the stuff that we do, one project in particular, controlling your household lights through your cell phone, using Apache, PHP, X10 dongle, real do-it-yourself kind of homebrew stuff, case modding, RSS, mashups, ARP cache poisoning, so going more into the security kind of stuff, and MAME arcade cabinets, VNC over SSH, so more white hat stuff, doing like homebrew, PSP type stuff, homebrew DS stuff. So really a lot of systems administration stuff, networking stuff, black hat, white hat stuff, gaming stuff, really just the passions that we have. It just so happens that the cast of Hack 5 all lives in the same house together. We're basically all systems administrators, and we do this for fun and beer. So so that was kind of cool. So that's what we do. We're hackers in the old school sense. I don't think any of us claim to be security gurus. We're not security professionals, but we're hackers just like you guys, and it's a lot of fun. So what else? We are not hacker school. If you would like to go to hacker school, there are plenty of hacker schools. Some of them are also actually really, really cool, and I would highly recommend, but that's not what we claim to be. And if you want to go to a course, that'll give you a certificate, and you can do that. But I believe that hacking in the sense that we're talking about is self-taught. So if it's self-taught, then what do we do? Well, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Okay? So I learned to solder because I wanted to build a red box. Who uses a red box today? Anyone? Who built a red box? Awesome. Seriously. Okay, what was the crystal? What was the megahertz of the crystal? 5536. Yes. That was awesome. I got it from Mauser Electronics because that's what the text file said to do. Yeah. So it's not the destination. It's so much about the journey, and the journey is hopefully what's going to inspire you to become a self-taught hacker in the original sense of the term. So the statutes of hacking. Here's the way I see it. I know that there's a million ways you could define it, but the way I see it is you write code, you test code, you report, or you support. Okay? Here's where I feel that we lie into this mix. We report. Okay? My code, you don't want to see my code. It's like, it makes duct tape look elegant. All right? And I'm not going to do support because, well, then we would just have a whole bunch of angry users. And I guess I test. I file my bug reports. That's cool. But I find it's important for somebody to report on this stuff, and who better than somebody that's been brought up in this scene, a group of people that are like-minded, or, old school hackers that get this stuff, and you probably wouldn't want mainstream media coming to your cons and reporting on this kind of stuff. I know I've seen them at DEF CON, and we all knew that didn't really go over so well. So it's all about inspiration. Not hacker school, not showing them how to build a red box. Well, showing them how to build a red box because then they can learn how to solder. It's inspiring the next generations of hackers, and it's kind of the crazy responsibility that when we went from little dinky podcast, 21 years old, doing it in our apartment for shits and giggles, to what we've become, and now like, oh my God, we got this responsibility to, raise a generation of hackers that are going to be cool and respect the mad awesome pony. Oh my God, ponies. So some lessons learned. Every time you do something, you suck less. We figured that out after the first episode when our audio sucked, our lighting sucked. I was like an epileptic freak on the show. My name's Darren. Don't watch the first 4 episodes of the third season, or the first season. Just don't. There's actually some cool segments in there about OS X hacking. But anyway, every time you do something, you're going to suck less. When you get this idea in your head, you're like, oh, dude, when I finally do this, it's going to own. And you sit there on that idea, and you're like, the more and more you mull it over, you're like, man, eventually I'm going to get around to this. When I have enough money, when I have enough free time, when chicks think I'm cool, I'm totally going to do this, and it's going to rock. And that's the idea that we had, and we sat on for about 2 months until we finally filmed it and did it. And guess what? We sucked. And every time, and when you do it, you're going to suck too. But probably not as much as us. I mean, we were blown like donkey balls. It was bad. But we sucked less every time, and we consistently suck less. So I'm happy to say that is one of my number 1 lessons learned. Building community, another great thing, another important thing for anybody in media to do. And there's so many tools available to help you do that now. And the way I feel about growing community is, who's heard of the term viral marketing? Man, F that, right? Let it grow organically. When we set out to do this, we were like, well, let's use WordPress. That's cool. Okay. Well, and I told my buddy, and he wasn't into the scene as much. And I was like, dude, you know what we need? We need an IRC channel. Let's head over to DownNet. Turns out DownNet's not so much anymore. Ouch. Okay, so we went over to FNet and put together an IRC like any good open source project would, and built a community there by spending a lot of time just hanging out and bullshitting. And it was a lot of fun. And that's how I feel that it's grown organically. The other thing is we've provided as many venues as possible for our audience to grow. So like I said, we've got a bulletin board system. We've got forums. We've got a blog. We've got, Twitter now. Yeah, Twitter's kind of cool. Okay, I'm just going to admit it. It is kind of cool. We've got Unreal Tournament 1999 game servers, Battlefield 2, Counter-Strike Source. We're a little bit hardcore gamers. It's kind of fun. But we just put together as many resources as possible and like a playground, like wikis and all sorts of fun stuff for our community to kind of play with and support us. And that's exactly what they've done. So we interact with them constantly, and we try to harness the wisdom of the crowd. Because when we set out to do something, what did I say about sucking every time you do something? Involve the community, because they have been super receptive and super willing to help us do awesome shit, because they believe in us. So reinventing. It's one of the things that we've done a ton in our production, and here's pretty much how it goes. When we first set out to do this, and I'm just going to talk about the production aspect, but this applies to so many other things. When we first set out to do this, and we sucked because we had 1 bad camera with 1 bad light and 2 bad mics, and we were like, okay, let's suck less the next time. We brought in another camera and realized that there's something like a key and a fill, and you need some background and maybe some over your head and shoulders to make it pop out of the frame, edge lighting, whatever. Okay, so we started evolving this into the point where we've got 3 cameras. And that was the coolest thing. Because if you're not changing camera angle every 30 seconds, you're losing the YouTube generation. Well, with that came a lot of complexity. Because how do you do that, right? Especially on a hacker budget. I mean, the first one was $700, and next thing you know, I'm dumping that money into this thinking, damn, why didn't I get the .com? You can go to the .com. Spammers got it. I don't know how I got it. Whatever. Let them have it. Not a biggie. But through that complexity, and you just keep doing it until you've got a system down. You got a production pipeline. So we were shooting 3 cameras, each of them shooting to their own individual DV tape. One of them recording the audio coming from 2 chintzy-ass little Griffin iMics. This is 2005. It was awesome. Both connected to a little Y splitter with a headphone extension cable going to a camera with 2 shop lights. And that worked for like a year. It was awesome. And when it came time for the second year to do this, and for the first 3 years, we took 2-month breaks in between everything because it was just like killing us. Hang on a second. Thank you. Did somebody say drink? All right. So we got that down, and then the next season, second season came up, and it's like, well, let's reinvent this, right? And then we go, because doing like recording all 3 cameras at the same time, trying to slam sync them, trying to time code, no time code. It's just like, we would actually, I just asked Matt to give me a beep. It's because I feel naturally, I can't do anything until I hear a beep, because the first year of my life, recording a television show, I couldn't do anything until someone went, beep. Because in editing, I would hear that beep, and I would line up the beeps, and then I would slice them, and then I'd go, oh, I want to switch cameras, and slice, and then move some stuff around on the timeline in Sony Vegas, which is only like $400. We're cheap. So we reinvented. So to make this slide short, we went from that to live to tape with a like video mixer, to live to tape with like now an HD video newfangled setup. And it seems like every time we get a system down, every time we actually get it like to where like I can knock it out in 2 hours, oh, now it's time to reinvent it. So here's what we started out with. Oh, again, production does not matter. This is just what we did because turns out I'm a closet AV geek. I know. Who knew AV geekdom was like akin to hacking? It is. Okay, so this is our first setup. It's a shop light. You can get it, God forbid, Walmart. Those are some sheet metal pieces that were just like wrapped around. Those lights up there are scoops, clip-on scoops that you can get at the hardware store, painted matte black. It was like stove black or something, treated for heat, and clipped onto a valance curtain rod affixed to the ceiling of my apartment, which is totally a bitch to spackle when I moved out. That is a king-size red bed sheet and a poster printed at Kinko's. That entire set, you're looking at it as like $200. You know, that was the initial $1,000 investment. I think the first thing was a lot more. Anyway, so then we gotta upgrade it. We gotta put some fake brick walls up because we wanted to be like a comedy show or something. I don't know what we were thinking. We got a fake cityscape. That's Toronto. We're not in Toronto. We're in Williamsburg, Virginia. That place hasn't been like happening since the 1700s. But whatever, man. We're in Toronto. It's cool. We got like a monolith here. The silver thing. I don't know what that is. It's just sheet metal behemoth. I got scars to prove it. Thing's crazy. Yeah, the Hack 5 viewers are laughing. And then we put together the live switching thing, which you're seeing in the bottom right here. These the CRT monitors where you can see what's on camera 1, camera 2. Again, very much with the AV geekdom. But the live switching thingy, the fancy set, it was kind of cool. And then we're like, okay, well, we got that down. Let's reinvent again. Cool. We can put it in a box. That's awesome. There's a whole bunch of specs if you really want to build an analog video switching system. The cat's not included. And we just put it together with cheap gear. I mean, we're not going crazy here. Those are refurbished 7-inch LCD screens, picked up, like $50 a piece, Velcroed to a DJ box with a $900 video mixer and a $300 audio mixer and enough composite cable to make your head spin. But it works, kind of. The cat? She was like $20 at like the SPCA or something. Yeah. So we're like, awesome. This thing rules. Let's bring it to ShmooCon. Let's do a live show and broadcast it over the internet using like Ustream or one of those freely available thingies. And that would be awesome. Except for, see this? See that right there? The red cable. There's a little white cable under this piece right there. That red and white cable, you know what those guys do? Yeah. And when you don't record the audio on the live show that you put together at ShmooCon, you spend a lot of work putting this awesome thing together. And here we are like 3 years into it. We figure we're experts. We've reinvented like 3 times now. You got to get really creative. Subtitles. lolcat style. The video is up on. We actually made it a contest for people to remix it, and Jason Scott was awesome in it. So then we go HD. This is the PowerPoint slide of death. Don't try to read it. Basically, what it is a culmination of about $6,000 of equipment to build an HD studio. Wait, let me reverse that and get some plasma screens in there and some cameras, whatever. So like 10 grand to build an HD studio versus like, I don't know, what did Revision3, our promotion, distribution, advertising partner, put together like $500,000? And we're able to do this totally on the hacker budget because, it turns out all you need to do is run all your crap into some HDMI and then like use a matrix switcher to, pre-cut your shit and then like slam both of those into like dual PCI cards into a Mac Pro and then switch between A and B and then bam, Who knew? And you know what? Nobody sees this shit. And we got like HD quality on like 10 grand and we didn't have to, nobody knows that this is, whatever. They probably think it's like so badass. They don't realize we're shooting in our living room, but whatever. So just a point on distribution, just in case you're like, oh, dude, that idea I've been having, I'm going to own it. That's actually going to really suck. But here's where you can put your sucky videos, the first couple, and then you'll evolve and it'll get a lot better. Independently, archive.org, awesome, free. Did I mention awesome? Okay, if you want to pay a little bit, Libsyn, Cashfly, Amazon S3. If all of a sudden things take off and you get 20 grand in the first month, which I got to say on that point, I think the only reason was because it was 2005 and like there was all of, 8 podcasts. I mean, shit, the podcast, the iTunes, yes, the iTunes. The iPod didn't even play video. The iTunes didn't have a podcasting. I mean, it was just kind of right place at the right time, and I think a good idea. But anyway, so if things go really well, you want to look at distribution. There's a ton of different distribution partners. Wizard, Next New Media come to mind, Revision3, and that is who we've partnered with. Anybody know these guys? Anybody watch any of these shows? Yeah, Dignation for the win. Alex Albrecht is a sick motherfucker. Revision3 Beta, new project that they've launched. I'm totally not I wasn't told by the corporate overlords to pimp this shit. I actually think it's kind of cool. And it's kind of like a playground where up-and-coming shows can get support from a big partner to help them put it together and refine it and hopefully find some advertising and make a living off of it, because who knew? And maybe that'll happen to us too. So, responsibility. With great power. I don't know. Maybe I'm off my rocker. But again, I built a red box when I was 12, and now I remember how to solder, okay? Maybe it's a personal thing, but I feel like what's important is to inspire with ethics, okay? Has anybody ever seen this? I know, interesting. Let's see, in our second season, 3rd and 4th episode, I think, if you want to go back and check, we did 2 segments on exactly this. In fact, it was the first time that this had ever been seen. It was kind of a 0 day. That was kind of cool. Who knew a freak growing up on Downet could ever, release 0 days on new media? Awesome. Well, I got a little overzealous, maybe. Maybe I didn't present it as well as possible. I'm not really sure how to present a 0 day. I'm not a security researcher. I'm not really sure where I sit on the fence between full disclosure and whatnot. But I showed the audience in an interesting example of how you could use a USB key, such as this, to walk up to your university computer in the computer lab and just plug it in and just unplug it and then go home and then raid the, the LM hash. That's kind of fun. You can use rainbow tables on those. IP addresses, open a backdoor, all sorts of fun stuff. And they did a follow-up one about how you can do exactly the same thing, but this time it installs a little sleeper program that just kind of chills out, looking for other USB drives to be plugged into this university public computer where some kids plug in their thumb drives because they got their report on there and they want to print, but mommy and daddy didn't buy them a laser printer. And they don't have just the report on there. They've got, their pictures for MySpace, maybe their pictures for something else, whatever. They get zipped up and Gmailed out to you. Awesome. Responsibility. I wasn't thinking so much about responsibility when I put it in that light. I'm glad, looking back, that we can have Russell come here and show you guys how to to use it for white hat, like incident response, cool stuff like that. That's awesome. But I gotta admit that I got kind of like caught up into the whole like uber elite awesomeness, and lost sight of the fact that, wow, there's like a responsibility to inspire kids to hopefully be a responsible bunch, forget the word, but not script kiddie. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Anybody use this tool? RenderMan at ShmooCon in 2007 actually used it to own one of the vendors. That was kind of cool. Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe this is just a guilty conscience, but it feels like giving an own stick to a bunch of kids wasn't really the brightest idea. Questions? No? Yeah, I'm always amazed too. It's the simplicity. It's one of those things like, shit, why didn't I think of that? It emulates a CD-ROM partition. Windows sees CD-ROMs and pops up an autorun.ini. No questions asked. That's how you pop in your driver's CD when you're a noob. Install the HP print blah, 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 blah. Tells you to buy more ink. Great. And it's one of those simple things like, oh, wow, you can write to it. Why don't you write the logs right back to there? Nobody would ever know. No packets are going out of the network. Sweet. So, anyway, this is the latest project. Anybody seen this guy? Okay, I've kind of anthropomorphized him. Before I did that, I kind of branded him. Before I did that, I got to show you here. This is anybody familiar with Fawn routers? Awesome. Okay, you got a Fawn router, the original? Sweet. OpenWRT, unlock that guy? Awesome. You can put this little project on here, Yasager. It's actually running right now. I don't know if anybody's connected to it. I don't feel like switching over to it. But basically what this guy does is runs Karma. Nothing fancy. You guys familiar with Karma? Okay, so it just says, your laptop boots up and it sends out a probe. It says, hey, I'm looking for Linksys, my home wireless connection. Hey, I'm looking for my work connection. And it says, oh, yeah, that's me. Come on over. And lets them on the network. And then, of course, I'm connected to it as well, firing up Wireshark, playing with all sorts of fun stuff. But this time around, this project, trying to take a lot more responsible approach with the release of this sucker. It's not as glitzy, as exciting as the oh my god own stick, but I think it's more responsible. So, get involved. There are a ton of video podcasts out, blogs out, audio podcasts out. You can find a lot of great stuff at Hacker Media. And there's a lot of ways that you can get involved with new media, whether it's like, okay, I'm finally going to do that project and suck the first time, but you know what, I'm going to suck the second time, the third time, and then I'm going to own. You can do that, or you can provide feedback to existing shows. You can just like get involved in this new media scene, because this is the new text file. This is the new e-zine, and this is the stuff that the kids are going to be growing up on and hopefully be coming to these conferences in the next 5-10 years. And you probably don't want them coming over but like, I'm a hacker now. No. So submit feedback. Contribute to wikis. Ask questions. If you got some cool shit, make some suggestions. Hell, maybe even be a guest. I mean, I know that some of you in the audience have been a guest on my show that we've been shooting today, trying to, paint the picture, the phreaknic experience, if you will. I'm going to bottle it up in a vial and hope nobody smells it. So I urge you to get involved. Questions? You guys are all thirsty, right? Yes, in the white.
What does your work think about your show?
Remember the part about anonymity? I've got a first name, I've got a last name. If you go to my website, you can find my email and a phone number that maybe gets redirected to a voicemail box that I check. Awesome. I don't have a work. And as far as work concerned, I don't have a show. Two separate things. I haven't quit a job because this is still an awesome, fun hobby, doing it for the beer and the fun. So that really hasn't become an issue. Matt, has that ever become an issue with you?
I'm pretty fortunate that I have a very understanding wife. Yes, she watches the show on occasion, but no, I mean, it's never really come up as, hey, I was watching the show
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know Shannon's got the bank people that she deals with, and they're like, a hacker show? You're going to a hacker conference? And now you're going to come back and tell them all about hardware keyloggers, and they're going to think you're awesome. Serious. So, yes?
How much bandwidth do you guys push?
Last time I looked, it was like 4 terabytes a month or something. I don't know. It's crazy. 250,000 weekly, and I think the shows aren't HD yet. We've got the HD equipment. We've got the most beautiful standard desk you've ever seen. Waiting on getting a Mac Pro. I know, because we got to reinvent and because we got to switch from Sony Vegas, the thing Darren's done for the last 3.5 years, to something's going to take a crash course on lynda.com overnight to edit. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of bandwidth. And before so Revision 3 takes care of that right now. They take care of all of our advertising concerns. They take care of all of our promotion concerns. They take care of all of our distributions. Excuse me. But so we don't have to really think about that. But there's plenty of places where you can get bandwidth where you don't have to think about it. Libsyn is who we were with before for 3 years. And we were trying to kind of stay under the radar. So we signed up for 3 accounts. We got like a WMV account, an XVID account, and an MP4 account. And did that just to make sure that we had, we were trying to kind of stay under the radar because they offer a free service where it's kind of like insurance, So it's like the little shows that do like 1,000 viewers a month that really pay for the big shows, and we're trying to kind of spread that out. But I mean, we were only paying like $200 a month to Libsyn for 3 or 4 feeds for 3 years. So I know it was a lot of bandwidth, but you can get by pretty cheap. And S3 is cheap as well.
For those first couple of years, how did you pay for the bandwidth? Just out of your pocket?
Out of pocket, yeah. Before Libsyn existed, back in 2005, when video podcasting was, I don't even think the name was, the term was coined. We had a bunch of DreamHost accounts, and we'd rotate files around. I mean, it was pretty bad. But again, it was only 20,000 viewers, and it was XVids that looked like the kind of stuff you got off news groups in 1999. So, watchable-ish. Ziploc.
I realized you had a problem with the hack house. I believe it was earlier this year. Did that have a significant effect on the show?
Significant to the point that 4.5 months later, we still don't have our house 100%.
4.5, April 22nd.
Okay, whatever that is. I'm not doing math. It's been a long time. What happened, for those that aren't aware, one day I came home to the awesome new house that I bought last year with one of those awesome mortgages that you keep hearing about because the show fucked me. You know what? There's another lesson learned. When you're getting a mortgage on a house, don't tell them you do a video podcast if it's just a hobby. And if you made an LLC once just to protect your ass from the RIAA, don't mention that. Because I don't know how it is in Tennessee. I don't know if you got the VHDA loans that we have in Virginia or whatever, but it's like that. There's a first-time home buyers thingy that allows you to get an awesome interest rate, and the economy was in complete shit then, so it's pretty cool. And yeah, they found out about that, and they weren't so happy about the fact that I was doing a hacker show in my living room, whatever. So I ended up with 2 of those awesome mortgages you keep hearing about. Go vote, please. So yeah, anyway, I came home one day, a year after buying this awesome house that we all live in and all do a television show on the internet from. I know it's like the real world, but real. And it was a swimming pool. There was like 2 inches of water on the ground. It was 13,000 gallons that spewed out for like 6 or 7 hours while we were at work. And yeah, that really sucked. So all the walls came down. The kitchen was completely destroyed. We didn't lose any equipment. What was that about? The Xbox, the plasma TV, all the cameras, everything was cool, but everything in the house totally crapped on. But I don't know, now I got an awesome new kitchen and new carpet and just, fun mortgage. Yeah, exactly. Acetate pipes, they kind of, after a while, just got brittle and then popped. And there was actually a class action lawsuit. It was, I forget the name of the company. It was Quest, Poly B, and that shit's just bad. I think they sell it to the Canadians now. So, yeah, Google that. We were right outside of the statutes of limitations, so we didn't get hooked up by them. So that was like 30 grand later. Insurance is good. Get some of that. Project management is good, too. Going like 6 grand over, not so much fun. Hey, we got an awesome kitchen. I don't care.
Sorry to delve a little bit more into this, but I just formed an LLC for my hacker corporation, or hacker group.
Way to go.
Am I going to lose my mortgage?
What? No, don't. IINAL. I don't know.
I heard LLC and then your mortgage.
Oh, this was before I got the mortgage. This is like that like couple day period where like, you know, I forget who it is, but they submit the bid or whatever, and then they come back and they like looking into your personal history and all this stuff. Like, is this guy really going to make these payments? You know, we're giving him like a 38% interest rate, whatever. Yeah. So if you already got your mortgage and you just got your, you're fine. I'm just saying, if you do a video podcast in your living room for funsies, don't tell them. If you're buying a house. Yes?
Yeah, that's, I think, the title insurance. The seller or something like that buys that and find out, make sure that when you're buying it, it's not going to go to your daughter's.
Yeah. Well, their biggest concern was that we were going to have like a bunch of people coming in and out of the house. We use Skype for interviews. Whatever. They didn't quite understand the internet, and when they heard the word hacker, they got this weird idea that we were like bad. Do you guys get that? I don't understand what that's all about. Yeah. Anything else? All right. Well, let's party. You guys have been great. Oh, yeah. One more. Sorry. There was one more lesson learned. And that is, when you do a hacker show with 3 of your best friends that all live in the same house together, and you spend every waking moment trying to put a show together, and you're sometimes at each other's throats. Sometimes just trying to put the house back together. It's kind of stressful. One important thing to remember is your buddies are awesome, and if you see this man at the parties, give him a beer. Thanks, guys. Oh, by the way, this is my first time speaking at a HackerCon. How'd I do? Thank you. All right, I don't think the child porn guy is here, is he? He said, I got child porn on my laptop, now what? And then he didn't show up. Oh, yeah, if you want some Hack 5 stickers, we got the swag up here.